Why manifestation works backwards. Most people are taught that manifestation is a forward march. They imagine their goals waiting far away in the distance, and like climbers ascending a mountain, they believe they must strain step by step until they finally reach the peak. Effort is glorified, striving is celebrated, and the spiritual marketplace is filled with promises that if you just try harder, visualize more vividly, repeat affirmations until your voice is hoarse, eventually the universe will respond to your determination. But here is the shocking truth that almost no one dares to tell you. Manifestation does not work in a straight line. It does not respond to your pushing or your grasping. It does not reward intensity for the sake of intensity. Manifestation works backwards. And when you grasp why, when you feel this secret in your bones, you will never again see your desires in the same way. Think about the countless times you have tried to want your way into a new reality. You may have spent hours imagining wealth, picturing yourself in the relationship of your dreams, or holding images of health and success in your mind. You may have repeated your chosen words so many times that they echoed like a drumbeat in your head. Perhaps you even felt moments of hope, brief flickers when it seemed as though the universe might finally be listening. Yet just as often, if not more, you were left with that aching frustration of touching something invisible, as though pressing your hand against glass. What you longed for felt so close that you could almost taste it, but still it slipped away, always in the distance, never fully here. This is the cruel irony of forward manifestation. The more you chase what you want, the louder you declare that it is absent. The harder you reach, the more you confirm the gap. Every thought that says, "I want this," every affirmation that insists, "I will have this," every visualization that places your dream in some distant tomorrow speaks the language of separation. It tells the quantum field that this reality exists somewhere other than now, that it is not yet here, that it is missing from your present experience. And because the field is a perfect mirror, it reflects exactly what you broadcast. Absence, distance, delay. Pause for a moment and let this sink in. When you say to yourself, "I want abundance," what are you truly declaring? You are affirming that abundance is not yet in your possession. When you visualize a dream relationship as something you are trying to attract, you are sending the energetic signal that love is not currently part of your life. The very act of wanting creates the energetic frequency of not having. This is where the backwards truth of manifestation reveals its revolutionary power. Instead of straining forward from lack toward fulfillment, you begin from fulfillment itself. You stop reaching into the future as if reality must be dragged toward you. Instead, you step backward into a timeline where it already exists, and you live from that place. The infinite quantum field holds every possible version of your life. In this vast ocean of potential, every outcome has already unfolded. Every version of you has already lived every possibility, from the most ordinary to the most extraordinary. Your wealthiest self is already walking through a universe of prosperity. Your most radiant self is already enjoying perfect health. Your most aligned self is already living their highest purpose. These are not distant fantasies. They are complete realities, fully formed, waiting in the field like books on a cosmic library shelf. You are not here to create something from nothing. You are here to select from what already exists. And the key lies in how you choose. The quantum field does not respond to your begging. It responds to your embodiment. It responds to your state of being. It responds to the frequency you inhabit now, not the promises you make about tomorrow. At this level, time itself is not what we think it is. You were taught that time is linear, that causes march forward to effects, that the future is always shaped by the present. But at the quantum level, time bends in ways the rational mind struggles to accept. The future influences the present just as much as the present influences the future. When you align yourself with a version of reality that already exists in potential, you create what physicists call retrocausality. The future begins to reach back, reorganizing the present moment so it can match the frequency you have chosen. This is not wishful thinking. This is not pretending. This is the difference between hoping and knowing, between playing with affirmations and embodying truth. Backwards manifestation requires the radical step of dissolving the gap completely. Not narrowing it, not bridging it, eliminating it. When there is no gap, there is no journey. When there is no journey, there is only arrival. And when there is only arrival, manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. Consciousness is not bound by the limits of matter. Your awareness is not locked inside the tiny cage of linear time. At any moment, you can step into any reality stream, into any timeline, into any possibility, simply by inhabiting the consciousness of the self who already lives it. The moment you embody the state of the one who has arrived, the quantum field reflects that choice without hesitation. It cannot tell the difference between what you imagine with full embodiment and what you experience with your senses. To consciousness, both are real, both are valid, both collapse probability into form. This is why simply repeating affirmations rarely works. This is why pretending to believe is not enough. You cannot fool the field with hollow words. You can only align with it through the authenticity of your state. When you observe from the endpoint, when you live from the consciousness of already having, you alter the trajectory of your reality. The future you have chosen begins to reorganize the present moment into coherence. Think of a mystery novel. Most people live their lives like readers starting on page 1, anxious and uncertain, hoping that the clues will eventually lead somewhere satisfying. They wander through their days in suspense, wondering what the universe has planned, hoping it ends well. But imagine you skip ahead to the final page. Imagine you already know how the story ends. When you then return to the beginning and read forward, every clue, every interaction, every twist is infused with a deeper meaning. You are no longer uncertain. You are reading from knowing. And that knowing changes everything. This is what backwards manifestation does. By stepping into the endpoint, you infuse every moment with the inevitability of the outcome. Opportunities appear that seem uncannily precise. Coincidences align with mathematical perfection. People arrive at the exact moment you need them. Resources flow as though they were waiting just outside the door. And all of this happens not because you pushed or demanded or strained, but because you aligned with the timeline where it had already happened. Notice also the gift this perspective brings to the anxious mind. When you know how the story ends, you stop trying to force the plot. You stop micromanaging every scene. You no longer manipulate the characters or obsess about the timing. You relax into the confidence of inevitability. And this is why those who master manifestation seem so calm, so certain, so unattached. They are not waiting for confirmation. They are not desperate for proof. They are living from completion. Their internal state radiates gratitude rather than lack, fulfillment rather than longing, certainty rather than anxiety. And in that state, something extraordinary happens. The universe stops testing you. The challenges that once mirrored your doubt dissolve. The circumstances that once reflected your hesitation disappear. The field mirrors only your certainty, only your knowing, only your embodied completion. This is not negotiation. This is not bargaining with reality. The quantum field does not evaluate worthiness, does not demand effort, does not require proof. It simply reflects frequency, perfectly, without exception. When you live from the frequency of already having, the field responds with unwavering precision. This is not poetic metaphor. This is the most fundamental truth of reality itself. Consciousness shapes matter. Observation collapses possibility into experience. State of being determines state of reality. And here is the invitation for you now. To stop chasing what you want as though it is far away. to stop declaring your desires in the language of absence, to instead turn backwards into the reality where your desire already exists, and to live from that space as if it were your only truth. Because in the quantum field, it is. The secret of reality selection. When you first hear that manifestation works backwards, the mind naturally resists. It wants to cling to effort and strategy because those are the rules we have been conditioned to play by since childhood. You were taught that success comes from hard work, that results come from time and effort, that you must climb slowly step by step. In school, you were rewarded for effort, for memorizing, for showing your work. At home, you were praised when you pushed harder, when you achieved through striving. This conditioning digs in so deeply that even when you step onto a spiritual path, you carry the same assumptions with you. You believe that the universe will respond if you can only try hard enough. You convince yourself that endless visualization or constant affirmation will eventually wear down reality's resistance. But backward manifestation is not about wearing down reality. It is about dissolving resistance altogether. It is not about repeating until the universe hears you. It is about knowing that the universe already holds what you desire and that your task is not to beg for it, but to align with it. This is why the first step is not creation but selection. Imagine standing before a vast cosmic archive, endless corridors stretching into eternity, each shelf filled with glowing books. Every book is a complete timeline of your life. One contains the version of you who struggles endlessly, always reaching but never quite receiving. Another contains the version of you who is radiant, fulfilled, and aligned, living in abundance and love. Another holds the version who chose fear, who never broke free from limitation. Another contains the self who dared to step fully into destiny. All of these books already exist. They are not waiting to be written. They are complete, detailed, fully alive. Backward manifestation is the art of choosing which book you wish to live. You do not need to write it from scratch. You do not need to build it brick by brick. You simply need to choose and embody the reality that is already written. The moment you make that choice, the ink of that book bleeds through into your present moment, reorganizing your now around the story you have selected. Selection is not imagination. It is not pretending. It is not tricking yourself into believing. Selection is embodiment. To select a reality is to step into the consciousness of the version of you who already lives it. It means feeling what that version feels, thinking how that version thinks, breathing the way that version breathes. It means embodying certainty, not grasping for proof. Consider how different the energy feels between wanting and embodying. When you want abundance, you tense. Your mind spins. Your nervous system holds a subtle vibration of absence. When you embody abundance, your body softens. Gratitude rises unforced. Certainty radiates from you without effort. One frequency broadcasts lack. The other broadcasts completion. And the quantum field does not respond to words. It responds to frequency. This is why pretending is not enough. Many people hear about backward manifestation and immediately turn it into another technique. They say to themselves, I will just pretend I already have it. If I act as if it is mine, surely the universe will deliver. But pretending is thin. Hoping dressed up as confidence is still hoping. It carries the frequency of lack, and the field mirrors lack faithfully. Embodiment, on the other hand, is thick. It is deep. It roots itself in your body, in your breath, in your cells. It is not something you perform. It is something you are. The moment you embody, the gap dissolves. Not slowly, not inch by inch, but all at once. Think of it like crossing a threshold. On one side of the doorway stands the self who wants, reaching, stretching, declaring the absence. On the other side stands the self who lives it, whose reality already holds the experience. There is no gradual climb across that threshold. You do not slide into the room. You step. One moment you are outside, the next you are in. This step is what many traditions have called a leap of faith, though it is not faith in the sense of blind belief. It is faith in the nature of consciousness itself. You do not need to understand how the leap works. You only need to make it. One moment you are the person hoping for health, the next you are the person who already embodies vitality. One moment you are the person grasping for love, the next you are the person emanating love. The shift happens in consciousness first, and matter follows as though compelled to obey. But here is the part that many struggle with. They attempt to embody while still secretly clutching lack. They try to live from abundance while their nervous system is still braced in scarcity. They declare health while their body still trembles in fear. They attempt to inhabit love while their mind whispers of loneliness. This is why selection must be unconditional. It cannot be hedged. You cannot keep one foot in the old reality while trying to step into the new. The old must dissolve entirely for the new to stabilize. This is why backward manifestation feels like a quantum leap. It is not a slow bridge. It is an instantaneous jump. And though the external results may take some time to fully arrange themselves, the internal shift happens in a single decision. From that moment onward, you are broadcasting from a new timeline. And when your frequency shifts, coherence begins to unfold. Thoughts that once contradicted your desire fade away. Emotions stabilize into harmony. Actions align without struggle. You stop fighting yourself. You stop sending mixed signals into the field. You become a consistent broadcaster of one clear reality, and the universe mirrors that consistency back with equal precision. This is what creates the sensation of magic. You declare a reality within yourself, and suddenly external life seems to conspire in its favor. Conversations lead to doors opening. Opportunities appear as if out of nowhere. People who resonate with your new frequency seem to arrive without explanation. And you realize it was never coincidence. It was coherence. But the most profound gift is not the external results. It is the inner liberation. When you embody, urgency dissolves. The nervous need to check for proof disappears. You no longer scan your bank account for evidence that abundance is arriving. You no longer search every glance for proof that love is on its way. You no longer examine every symptom hoping for health. Why? Because you already know. When you know the story ends in fulfillment, you no longer need reassurance. When you know the reality is chosen, you no longer monitor for signs. This knowing is not passive. It is active certainty. It is embodied truth. And from this state of knowing, paradoxically, evidence begins to flow more rapidly than ever before. Proof appears everywhere, not because you hunted for it, but because you no longer needed it. This is what scientists call coherence, the alignment of thought, emotion, and action around a single frequency. When coherence arises, your signal to the quantum field becomes pure. It contains no static, no contradiction, no mixed transmission. And the field, being exact in its reflection, begins collapsing probabilities into form that match your frequency with mathematical precision. What once took years can unfold in weeks. What once required grinding effort can appear with breathtaking ease. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. And this acceleration is not because you forced harder. It is because you aligned more clearly. So now you can see why manifestation works backwards. It is not about dragging your dream from the future into the present. It is about stepping into the present where the dream already exists and allowing that version of you to broadcast its certainty into the now. The shift happens in you first and reality rushes to follow. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself standing in that vast cosmic archive once again. See the countless shelves, the infinite books of possible lives. Reach for the volume that contains the you who has already arrived. The you who breathes abundance. The you who lives in love. The you who moved through health with effortless grace. Feel the weight of that book in your hand. Open it and step inside. Let its story become yours, not in some distant future, but here now. This is the heart of backward manifestation. The realization that you do not need to beg, to prove, to chase. You only need to choose. And once you choose, embody with such fullness that the old dissolves like a dream upon waking. Embodied certainty, the frequency that creates worlds. The deeper you move into the backwards truth of manifestation, the more you begin to notice the subtle but powerful shift between belief and certainty. Belief always carries a shadow of doubt. To say you believe something is to admit you are still trying to convince yourself. Belief is fragile. It trembles under pressure. It requires constant reinforcement. You repeat your affirmations because you are afraid they might not hold. You visualize over and over because a part of you does not yet trust. Belief is useful, but it is not the foundation of backward manifestation. Backward manifestation rests upon certainty. Certainty does not need repetition to survive. It does not require constant checking or external validation. It is not fragile. It is steady, grounded, uncheckable. Certainty does not ask if reality is responding. It knows that reality has already shifted. It walks into the room with the calm presence of inevitability. And when certainty becomes the state of your being, the quantum field responds in ways that feel miraculous. Certainty is not something you think. It is something you embody. It must live in your breath, in your posture, in your tone of voice. It must radiate from your nervous system like heat from the sun. You cannot perform certainty. You cannot fake it with forced confidence. The body knows the difference. The field knows the difference. Pretending always carries a subtle frequency of tension as though you are holding up a mask. Embodiment is effortless. It feels natural. It feels like home. When you live in certainty, something beautiful happens. You stop needing proof. You stop asking the question, is it working? And paradoxically, that is when proof begins to flood into your life. The moment you release the need for evidence, evidence starts to appear everywhere. Opportunities reveal themselves. Coincidences multiply. Synchronicities line up with uncanny precision. The external world begins to mirror the inner state of completion. This is why people who master manifestation often appear serene. They are not calm because life is easier for them. They are calm because they know. They know their reality is already chosen. They know that what belongs to them cannot be taken. They know that the field mirrors completion, not longing. This knowing frees them from urgency. It dissolves the anxious grasping for confirmation. It softens the nervous system into gratitude. And gratitude itself becomes a signal. Gratitude is not just a reaction to blessings. It is a frequency that magnetizes them. When you feel gratitude before the evidence appears, you declare to the field that the evidence already exists. Gratitude is the language of arrival. When you live from gratitude, the field has no choice but to reflect circumstances that match that state. But how do you move into this certainty when the outer world still seems unchanged? This is where the practice of reality assumption becomes essential. Reality assumption is the decision to live as if the reality you have chosen is already true, regardless of appearances. It does not mean denying what you see. It does not mean ignoring your circumstances. It means refusing to let them dictate your state of being. Your current circumstances are not proof of your limits. They are the delayed reflection of your past states. They are the residue of previous broadcasts, not the measure of your potential. When you assume a new reality, you begin living from it even if your senses have not yet caught up. If you have chosen abundance, you make decisions from abundance. If you have chosen health, you move your body as someone who is already whole. If you have chosen love, you radiate as though you are already deeply cherished. This is not pretending. It is aligning with the future that is already written. It is refusing to let the lag of matter pull you back into old patterns. The quantum field always reorganizes around the frequency you embody now. But there is a delay, like the echo of a song that continues for a few seconds even after the music has stopped. The key is to remain in your chosen frequency long enough for the echoes to fade. This is where many people stumble. They embody for a day, a week, sometimes even a month. Then an old challenge arises. A bill arrives, a relationship falters, a symptom appears, and immediately they collapse back into the old identity and say to themselves, "See, it isn't working." They abandon their chosen timeline and reattach to the frequency of lack. In that moment, they broadcast contradiction, and the field mirrors contradiction faithfully. But backward manifestation requires consistency. It requires timeline coherence. Coherence is the art of holding your chosen frequency even when external circumstances whisper otherwise. It is the refusal to let appearances shake your alignment. It is the decision to remain in the identity of your chosen self until reality stabilizes around it. Timeline coherence does not mean perfection. It does not mean you never wobble. It means that the dominant tone of your being remains aligned with a new reality. Think of a symphony. Even if a single note is out of tune, the overall song remains intact if the orchestra continues in harmony. Your coherence works the same way. If the majority of your thoughts, feelings, and actions radiate from your chosen identity, the field recognizes that as your dominant broadcast. As coherence stabilizes, reality begins to confirm. You start to notice what I call reality signals. These are the subtle reflections that whisper back to you, yes, the shift is real. You meet someone who speaks words you needed to hear. You stumble upon an opportunity that aligns perfectly with your intention. A door opens where you once saw only walls. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They are evidence that the field is aligning with your frequency. But remember, the signals arrive after you embody, not before. The field does not hand you proof so that you can finally choose certainty. It responds to certainty by providing proof. This is why faith is so crucial in the early stages. Not faith in an external power that may or may not answer you, but faith in the principle that consciousness always precedes matter. Faith that your state of being shapes reality with perfect accuracy. Faith that what you broadcast consistently cannot fail to return. And with each signal that arrives, your certainty deepens. You no longer need to stretch your belief. You no longer strain to convince yourself. Certainty becomes self-sustaining. It becomes the foundation from which you live. And from this foundation, you begin to discover a new quality of freedom. Because when you are no longer a prisoner of appearances, you are free. You are no longer reactive, tossed about by every change and circumstance. You are no longer enslaved by doubt. You are no longer at the mercy of the outside world. You become sovereign in your frequency. You choose your state regardless of what unfolds around you. And the more you choose, the more reality reflects that choice. This is why timeline coherence is one of the most profound practices you can undertake. It rewrites the relationship between you and reality. Instead of chasing outcomes, you stabilize states. Instead of negotiating with the universe, you embody truth. Instead of hoping for change, you live as change. So take a moment now to breathe into the version of you who has already chosen. Feel the subtle difference in your body when you assume the reality of completion. Notice how your shoulders relax, how your breath deepens, how your heart softens. That is the signal. That is the broadcast. That is the frequency that creates worlds. How to override circumstances and collapse the gap. Even once you understand reality selection and timeline coherence, challenges will still appear. Old patterns rise up like echoes from timelines you have already left behind. The bills that show up in your mailbox, the health symptoms that resurface, The unexpected arguments that flare with loved ones, these are not signs that your chosen reality has failed. They are the remnants of the old broadcast. They are the final ripples of the vibration you once carried. Backward manifestation is not about pretending these challenges do not exist. It is not about denying the presence of difficulty. It is about choosing who you are in the midst of them. This is what I call reality override. Reality override is the conscious choice to respond from the identity of your chosen self, even when appearances tempt you to collapse back into your old state. Think about this for a moment. Two people may encounter the exact same situation. A sudden bill arrives in the mail. The first person panics, immediately sliding back into fear and scarcity. They say to themselves, "I knew it was too good to be true. I will never escape this cycle." The second person breathes, smiles, and chooses to respond as the version of themselves who already lives abundance. They remind themselves, "I am abundant. I have already chosen this timeline, and this circumstance is simply the last echo of an old vibration." They respond from calm. They respond from certainty. And by doing so, they reinforce their new broadcast rather than collapsing back into the old one. Reality override is not denial, it is sovereignty. It is not ignoring the circumstance. It is refusing to let the circumstance dictate who you are. You begin to see every apparent challenge not as a threat to your chosen timeline, but as an opportunity to deepen your embodiment of it. Each test becomes a chance to prove to yourself that you are no longer the old version. Each trigger becomes a portal to embody the new state more fully. And something remarkable happens when you practice reality override consistently. The external world begins to reshape more quickly. The old echoes dissolve faster. The lag between inner shift and outer confirmation shortens, because the field responds not to circumstances, but to your state in the midst of them. When you hold your chosen frequency even in the face of contradiction, the contradiction loses its power. It no longer hooks you. It no longer defines you. And once it loses power, it fades from your timeline. But even beyond reality override lies a deeper stage in backward manifestation. This is what I call quantum surrender. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood words in the spiritual vocabulary. Many people hear it and think it means giving up, collapsing into passivity, allowing life to sweep them along without effort. But true surrender is not collapse. True surrender is completion. Quantum surrender is the recognition that once you have selected your reality and embodied its frequency, your part is done. The when, the how, the through whom, the specific chain of events, all of these belong to the field, not to you. Your responsibility ends at state. The orchestration of details belongs to the intelligence of the quantum field. Think of planting a seed. You do not dig it up every day to check if it is growing. You water it, you give it light, and you trust the intelligence of nature to handle the rest. If you dug it up constantly, the roots would never take hold. If you fussed over it in desperation, you would suffocate it. The same is true for manifestation. Once you have selected and embodied, you must allow the roots to take hold in the soil of consciousness. You must surrender the details to the field. Surrender is only possible when you have truly embodied. If you are still uncertain, you cannot surrender. You will keep checking, doubting, analyzing. You will cling to control. But once you know, surrender becomes natural. It is not forced. It feels like relaxation. It feels like exhaling. It feels like letting the river carry you instead of trying to paddle upstream. And in this surrender, manifestation becomes effortless because you are no longer interfering. You are no longer monitoring. You are no longer tightening your grip around every detail. You are simply being. And in being, you allow the field to organize itself without resistance. This is the effortless state. It is the state where reality flows through you as naturally as breath. You are not pushing, not pulling, not manipulating, not proving. You are aligned, embodied, surrendered. And in that state, reality organizes itself with breathtaking precision. Opportunities arrive without struggle. Resources flow without effort. Relationships align without manipulation. Life itself feels lighter. The effortless state is not laziness. It is not avoidance. It is power, because true power does not strain. The sun does not force itself to shine. The ocean does not push itself to move. Power is effortless because it is natural. And when you embody your chosen reality and surrender the details, you step into that same natural rhythm. You become as inevitable as sunrise. Feel into this for a moment. Imagine yourself having already selected the reality you desire. Imagine embodying it so completely that your breath, your posture, your presence radiate certainty. Imagine surrendering the how and when to the quantum field, releasing control, allowing life to organize itself around your frequency. And imagine then relaxing into the effortless state where each day feels guided, where synchronicities meet you like old friends, where the flow of reality carries you with gentle strength. This is the gift of backward manifestation. It is not about straining forward into the future. It is about stepping backward into the already complete. It is about overriding the illusions of lack, surrendering the details, and allowing the effortless rhythm of the field to flow through you. And once you taste this state, once you feel what it is like to live without grasping, without forcing, without endlessly chasing, you will never again return to the exhausting game of forward manifestation. You will know that the secret was never in trying harder. The secret was always in stepping back, embodying fully, surrendering completely, and allowing reality to unfold as naturally as breath. Quantum surrender and state of being. Once you begin living in the effortless state, a new dimension of this practice begins to reveal itself. It is the way backward manifestation changes your relationship with time itself. In ordinary thinking, time is imagined as a line, stretching from past to present to future in one direction. You were taught to believe that the past causes the present and the present causes the future. You were trained to expect that everything must take time, that every change requires long periods of struggle, that outcomes can only arrive step by step. But the deeper you move into quantum manifestation, the more this illusion of linear time begins to dissolve. You discover that the future is not waiting far away, slowly approaching. The future is here, layered invisibly upon the present. It is accessible now, not later. At the quantum level, time behaves less like a line and more like a vast field where past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. Consciousness can move within this field as freely as a bird flies through the sky. This is why backward manifestation works. You are not dragging a distant dream into the present. You are stepping into the timeline where that dream is already alive. You are allowing the frequency of your chosen future to reorganize the present moment so that it matches. This is what physicists describe as retrocausality, where the future influences the now just as much as the now influences the future. You may have experienced glimpses of this without realizing it. Think of moments when hours seemed to vanish because you were so immersed in what you loved. Or when an answer you had struggled with for weeks suddenly appeared in an instant, as if it had always been waiting for you. Or when you met someone at precisely the right moment and knew, deep in your bones, that the timing was impossibly perfect. These were not coincidences. They were reminders that time is not as rigid as you were taught. Backward manifestation invites you into what I call quantum time. In quantum time, healing does not always require years. It can unfold in a single instant when you step into the version of yourself who is already whole. Financial abundance does not require decades of grinding effort. It can manifest rapidly when you align with the frequency of someone who has always been abundant. Relationships do not require endless searching. They can appear effortlessly when you radiate the frequency of one who is already loved. This is not fantasy. It is alignment. It is the natural consequence of frequency shaping matter. For time itself responds to consciousness. When your state of being aligns fully with your chosen timeline, time rearranges itself to support the reality you have selected. And this brings us to one of the most profound lessons in backward manifestation, the sovereignty of frequency. Your frequency is the most valuable resource you possess. Not your skills, not your possessions, not your connections, but your consistent vibrational state. Frequency is what you are broadcasting 24 hours a day. It is the signal the quantum field is listening to without pause. Most people do not realize this. They send mixed signals, hoping for one thing while fearing another, desiring love while radiating fear of abandonment, seeking health while broadcasting worry about illness, reaching for abundance while vibrating with scarcity. These mixed signals confuse the field, and the result is a reality that looks equally confused. Frequency sovereignty means taking full responsibility for your broadcast. It means choosing your state deliberately, moment by moment, and refusing to surrender it to external circumstances. It means becoming so grounded in your chosen reality that no matter what unfolds around you, you remain steady. When others collapse into fear, you remain in trust. When others surrender to limitation, you remain in expansion. When others are carried away by chaos, you remain in clarity. This is not coldness. It is not detachment in the sense of indifference. It is the ability to radiate love, compassion, and strength without absorbing the lower frequencies around you. It is the capacity to maintain your alignment so consistently that your presence becomes magnetic. People will feel it even if they cannot name it. They will describe you as someone with powerful energy, someone they feel drawn to, someone whose presence feels calming or inspiring. That magnetism is not performance. It is coherence. And coherence transforms not only what you attract but who you become. Because backward manifestation is never only about external circumstances, it is about identity. When you embody a new timeline, you are not simply acquiring new conditions. You are becoming the version of yourself who lives them. That version of you thinks differently, breathes differently, loves differently. They walk with a new rhythm. They radiate with a new confidence. They hold themselves with a new posture of certainty. This transformation of identity is the hidden treasure of backward manifestation. You are not trying to add something to who you already are. You are peeling away the false layers that convinced you that you lacked. You are remembering who you have always been beneath the conditioning. You are stepping into the truth that the self you most desire to become is not new, but ancient, waiting in the field to be embodied. And this transformation ripples outward. Your family notices it in subtle ways. Your friends sense it when they look into your eyes. Strangers feel it when they stand near you. You begin to carry a frequency that elevates not only your own experience, but the collective field itself. Every moment you live in coherence, you contribute to a rising tide of consciousness that makes it easier for others to access the same frequency. Backward manifestation is not only personal, it is planetary. Every time you embody your chosen reality instead of collapsing into fear, you are strengthening the frequency of truth in the collective. Every time you live from abundance instead of lack, you broadcast that possibility into the field, making it available to others. Every time you surrender into love instead of grasping in loneliness, you ripple that vibration across the entire web of consciousness. And here lies perhaps the most revolutionary understanding of all. You are not just shaping your personal timeline. You are participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. Your frequency is not isolated. It is part of the collective broadcast. When you hold sovereignty in your own field, you invite others to remember their own sovereignty. You create what I call permission fields, energetic spaces where others feel empowered to embody their own truth simply by being near you. This is the deeper meaning of becoming magnetic. It is not about forcing others to admire you or bending circumstances to your will. It is about radiating such coherence that the world reorganizes around you naturally. It is about being such a clear signal that reality cannot help but reflect it. So breathe into this truth now. Feel your frequency as the most precious gift you hold. Recognize that every thought, every emotion, every posture is a note in the song you are broadcasting to the universe. And know that the field is listening with perfect precision. There is no delay in its reflection, only the time it takes for matter to rearrange itself around your new song. As you anchor more deeply into quantum time and frequency sovereignty, you will notice that the boundaries of who you thought you were begin to dissolve. The small self that was shaped by limitation and fear fades into the background. The larger self, the timeless self, the radiant self who has always existed in the field, begins to step forward. You become not just the one who manifests new circumstances, but the one who remembers their eternal identity. Backward manifestation is not only about creating a better life. It is about remembering who you are beyond time, beyond circumstance, beyond limitation. It is about stepping into the identity of the one who is already whole, already abundant, already love itself. And when you live from that identity, reality bends in response. Timeline navigation and the end of victimhood. The more deeply you embody backward manifestation, the more you realize that your journey is not isolated. Every choice you make, every frequency you hold, every reality you select sends ripples into the collective field. What you do within yourself is never just for you. It resonates through the invisible web of consciousness that connects all beings. This is the great secret that mystics and visionaries have always hinted at. You are not only shaping your personal timeline, you are influencing the timelines available to the whole of humanity. Every coherent frequency you embody becomes easier for others to access. Every state of sovereignty you stabilize becomes an open door in the collective field. Every moment you live as your chosen self creates what I call permission fields. A permission field is an energetic invitation. It is not something you declare with words. It is something you radiate with your presence. When you embody abundance without effort, you silently tell others abundance is possible. When you live in love without grasping, you broadcast to those around you, love is real. When you walk in health with ease, you offer the frequency of wholeness to every person who encounters you. You do not have to preach. You do not have to convince. Your state itself does the teaching. This is why being is always more powerful than speaking. Words can inspire, but they can also be doubted, resisted, or misunderstood. Presence, on the other hand, bypasses argument. It transmits directly. People may not even understand why they feel different in your company. They may not be able to name it, but they will sense coherence. They will feel the subtle resonance of truth. They will be drawn toward it like plants turning toward the sun. You have probably experienced this yourself. Think of moments when you met someone whose presence seemed to calm you instantly, or inspire you, or awaken a possibility you had forgotten. They may not have said much. They may not even have been trying to influence you, but their alignment radiated into the field and you felt it. That is the power of a permission field. And as more of us embody backward manifestation, these permission fields begin to multiply and overlap. They form a lattice of resonance that makes it easier for the collective to stabilize higher frequencies. What once felt impossible begins to feel natural. What once seemed rare begins to become ordinary. This is how collective evolution unfolds. Not through struggle and force, but through the gradual strengthening of new frequencies until they become the dominant signal of humanity. Science has already hinted at this principle. Researchers speak of morphic resonance, the idea that when a new pattern is embodied by enough individuals, it becomes easier for others to access. It is why discoveries often happen simultaneously in different parts of the world. It is why breakthroughs ripple across cultures without direct contact. Once the field is seeded with coherence, it spreads. You are participating in this process every time you choose to embody rather than long. Every time you step into certainty rather than fear. Every time you surrender rather than grasp. You are not only shifting your personal timeline, you are seeding the collective field with a frequency that makes it easier for others to remember their power. And this carries a profound responsibility, but not the heavy responsibility of burden. It is the elegant responsibility of authenticity. You are not asked to save the world by force. You are invited to embody truth so fully that your very being becomes a gift. You are asked to live in such coherence that others cannot help but remember who they are. Imagine the ripple effect this creates. A single individual stabilizes in abundance. Their family feels it. Their community senses it. Strangers are touched by it. Another person stabilizes in love. Their relationships shift. Their workplace transforms. Their frequency ripples outward. Another person stabilizes in health. They inspire others to care for their bodies, to believe in vitality, to live differently. And as these ripples overlap, humanity begins to move, not through force, not through preaching, but through resonance. This is why backward manifestation is not selfish. It is service at the highest level. By aligning yourself with truth, you elevate the field for all. By embodying coherence, you create resonance that others can step into. By living sovereignty, you become a beacon that silently says, "This is possible for you too." And as this ripple effect grows, something extraordinary happens. Collective thresholds are reached. Just as a single drop of water can tip the balance of a scale, just as a single spark can ignite a fire, there comes a point when enough individuals embody a new frequency that the collective itself shifts. The old paradigm cannot hold. The new becomes inevitable. We are approaching such a tipping point now. More people than ever are awakening to the truth that consciousness creates reality. More people are discovering the backwards nature of manifestation. More people are stepping into sovereignty. Each one becomes a signal, a tuning fork resonating with truth, and together these signals form a symphony. Your role in this is not small. Do not underestimate the power of your embodiment. Do not dismiss the impact of your frequency. Every choice you make to live from coherence rather than fear strengthens the collective shift. Every moment you stabilize in your chosen reality contributes to the field of possibility for all. And this awareness transforms how you view your own practice. You no longer see it as a private game of trying to get what you want. You see it as participation in the evolution of consciousness itself. You understand that your abundance uplifts others. Your love heals others. Your health inspires others. Your sovereignty grants permission for others to remember their sovereignty. So as you continue your journey of backward manifestation, carry this awareness with you. You are not just manifesting for yourself. You are manifesting for humanity. You are not only aligning with your own chosen timeline. You are weaving new threads into the tapestry of the collective. You are not only remembering who you are. You are helping the whole remember who it is. And the beauty of this truth is that you do not need to force your impact. You do not need to calculate how to influence others. You only need to embody. The field does the rest. Resonance spreads naturally. Permission fields multiply on their own. Your only task is to live in truth. So breathe into this now. Feel the ripple of your presence extending outward, touching those around you, touching those you will never meet, touching even the future generations who will inherit the field you are helping to shape. Feel the dignity of this responsibility, the grace of it, the beauty of knowing that your personal embodiment contributes to something vast. Backward manifestation is not only the key to personal transformation, it is the seed of collective awakening. And every time you choose coherence, you water that seed. Every time you choose sovereignty, you strengthen the roots. Every time you choose love, you help it bloom. The ripple effect. how your frequency awakens humanity. As you step deeper into the practice of backward manifestation, a breathtaking realization begins to dawn. You are not walking this path alone. Every shift in your frequency, every choice to embody coherence, every time you surrender into the effortless state, you are not only changing your personal reality, you are contributing to the reality of all. Consciousness is not isolated. Your mind is not a sealed container. Every thought you broadcast, every state you stabilize, ripples into the collective field like waves moving through an endless ocean. What you do within yourself resonates far beyond your own body, far beyond your own life. This is why the work of embodiment is not selfish. It is the most profound act of service you can offer. Think for a moment about resonance. When a single string of a guitar is plucked, another string nearby will begin to vibrate in harmony if it is tuned to the same frequency. Nothing touches it physically, yet it responds. The same principle applies to consciousness. When you embody abundance, others who are tuned even faintly to that frequency will begin to feel it awaken within them. When you radiate love, others feel themselves drawn into its field without knowing why. When you walk in health, vitality stirs in those around you. You do not have to convince anyone with arguments. Your being itself is the transmission. This is what I call a permission field. A permission field is created whenever someone embodies a coherent frequency so clearly, so consistently, that it silently grants permission for others to do the same. When you embody abundance, you are silently saying, "This is possible." When you embody love, you declare without words, "This is real." When you embody health, you remind others, "This too belongs to you." People feel it, even if they cannot name it. They may describe you as inspiring, magnetic, calming, or radiant. They may not understand why, but they sense the coherence. Your state bypasses their conscious resistance and speaks directly to their deeper knowing. It awakens memory in them, the memory that they too are creators, that they too can choose, that they too can step into sovereignty. And as more of us embody backward manifestation, these permission fields begin to overlap. They create a lattice of resonance across the collective. What once seemed rare begins to feel natural. What once seemed impossible becomes easier. This is how collective shifts occur. Not through struggle, not through arguments, but through resonance. Science is beginning to hint at this truth with ideas like morphic resonance, the principle that when enough individuals embody a new pattern, it becomes available to the whole. Think of how certain inventions, discoveries, or breakthroughs seem to emerge in multiple places at the same time, even without contact between the individuals involved. The field itself carries the pattern once it has been stabilized. Backward manifestation works in the same way. Every time you embody your chosen reality, you are not only selecting it for yourself, you are strengthening it in the collective field. You are making it easier for others to access the same frequency. You are opening doors for those who may not even know such doors exist. This is why personal transformation is never truly personal. Your abundance uplifts others. Your love heals others. Your sovereignty inspires others. Your coherence ripples outward into the field, and the field shares it. Every breath you take in alignment with your chosen self is a gift to humanity. And this carries with it a profound responsibility. Not the heavy responsibility of burden, but the elegant responsibility of authenticity. You do not have to save the world. You do not have to fix anyone. You are asked only to live your truth so fully that your very presence becomes a beacon. When you embody abundance, you show what is possible. When you embody love, you remind others of their own capacity. When you embody sovereignty, you invite others to step into their power. Think of the ripple effect of a single stone dropped into still water. The circles spread wider and wider, touching shores far beyond where the stone fell. Your embodiment is that stone. Every choice to hold coherence is a ripple that moves through the ocean of humanity. You may never know the full extent of your impact. You may never meet the people who are touched by your resonance, but the field does not forget. Every ripple matters. And as these ripples multiply, thresholds are reached. Just as there comes a point where a single drop tips the balance of a scale, just as one final push ignites the flame, there comes a moment when enough individuals embody a new frequency that the collective itself shifts. Old paradigms collapse. New possibilities become the norm. This is happening now. More and more people are awakening to the truth that consciousness shapes reality. More are discovering the backwards nature of manifestation. More are stepping into sovereignty. Each one becomes a tuning fork, and together they form a symphony. The old song of struggle is being drowned out by the new song of coherence. Your role in this is not small. Do not underestimate the power of your frequency. Every time you choose love instead of fear, you tilt the collective balance. Every time you embody certainty instead of doubt, you strengthen the field of possibility. Every time you surrender into alignment, you contribute to the rising tide of awakening. And the beauty of this is that you do not have to calculate your impact. You do not have to measure your influence. Resonance spreads naturally. Permission fields multiply on their own. Your only task is to embody. The field will take care of the rest. So let yourself feel the dignity of this role. You are not only manifesting for yourself. You are participating in the evolution of humanity. You are not only aligning with your chosen timeline, you are seeding new timelines for the collective. You are not only remembering who you are, you are helping the world remember who it is. Backward manifestation is not selfish magic. It is sacred service. By choosing coherence, you lift the whole. By stabilizing sovereignty, you grant permission for others to step into their own. By embodying love, you weave it more deeply into the fabric of reality itself. So breathe into this now. Feel your frequency as a wave moving outward, touching lives you will never see, shaping futures you will never witness, weaving possibilities that will blossom long after this moment. Know that your embodiment is your offering, and know that the field never loses a single note of the song you sing. The final secret: you are the dreamer and the dream. As we come to the final chapter of this exploration, pause for a moment and notice how far you have traveled. You began with the old story of manifestation, the one that told you to strive and chase, to visualize harder, to repeat affirmations until your voice grew tired. You saw the truth that wanting speaks the language of lack. You felt the revelation that manifestation works not forward but backward. And you discovered that the path is not one of effort but of embodiment, not of striving but of sovereignty, not of waiting but of knowing. Now at this point, the journey deepens into its most profound recognition. Backward manifestation is not only a technique for shaping your circumstances. It is a mirror that reveals who you truly are. When you look deeply enough, you see that you are not simply the one who desires, not simply the one who selects, not simply the one who embodies. You are the consciousness in which all realities exist. You are both the dreamer and the dream. This realization is what I call frequency sovereignty. It is the recognition that your state of being is your most powerful possession, your most valuable resource, your greatest treasure. Frequency is not something you sometimes broadcast. It is what you are transmitting every moment of your life. And the quantum field responds with perfect precision to that signal. Most people broadcast mixed signals. Part of them wants abundance, another part fears scarcity. Part of them longs for love, another part clings to fear of loss. Part of them desires health, another part identifies with illness. These contradictions create static, and the field reflects static back into their lives. They experience inconsistency because they are inconsistent. They see chaos because their signal is chaotic. Frequency sovereignty is the art of dissolving contradiction. It is the mastery of becoming so coherent in your broadcast that the field cannot help but reflect clarity. It means choosing your state deliberately, moment by moment, breath by breath. It means refusing to allow the external world to dictate your internal reality. It means standing so deeply in your chosen frequency that nothing outside of you can shake it. This does not mean you become rigid. It does not mean you harden yourself against the world. True sovereignty is fluid. It is spacious. It is the freedom to remain aligned no matter what arises. It is the ability to radiate love even in the presence of fear, to broadcast abundance even in the midst of scarcity, to shine peace even when chaos swirls around you. When you live from frequency sovereignty, something extraordinary happens. The world no longer dictates who you are. Instead, who you are dictates the world you experience. You stop being reactive. You stop waiting for circumstances to validate you. You stop outsourcing your power to events or people or conditions. You become the origin point. You become the cause. You become the center from which reality takes its shape. And with this realization comes the final dissolution of effort, because you see clearly now that there was never anything to chase. You were never trying to attract something from outside. You were always remembering something within. Abundance is not something you acquire. It is something you embody. Love is not something you find. It is something you radiate. Health is not something you achieve. It is something you align with. All of it already exists, not only in the field but in you. Backward manifestation brings you to this recognition. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been. You are not creating a new reality. You are stepping into the reality that has always been available. You are not pulling a future into the present. You are realizing that all futures already live in the present, waiting for your awareness to choose them. This is why the practice feels so natural once you taste it. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. It feels like returning home after wandering through a dream. It feels like remembering a truth you had always known but somehow forgotten. And when you live from this recognition, life itself becomes lighter. You no longer carry the weight of proving your worth. You no longer exhaust yourself with endless effort. You no longer live as though reality is something to conquer. You live as though reality is a dance, and you are both the dancer and the music. Consider the beauty of this. Every desire you hold is not a problem to be solved, but an invitation to remember. When you long for abundance, you are being invited to remember the self who is already abundant. When you long for love, you are being invited to remember the self who is already love. When you long for freedom, you are being invited to remember the self who has never been bound. Every desire is a doorway into remembrance. Every longing is a thread pulling you back to truth. And as you integrate this truth, the external world begins to reflect it with astonishing clarity. You watch as circumstances align, not because you forced them, but because you remembered them. You see doors open, not because you demanded them, but because you stepped into the version of you for whom they were already open. You notice synchronicities multiply, not because you chase them, but because you tune to the frequency where they naturally exist. Backward manifestation becomes less about doing and more about being, less about chasing and more about remembering, less about asking and more about embodying. And from this place, you begin to realize the final secret. Manifestation was never about the things you wanted. It was always about the person you become when you embody them. The true treasure is not the abundance itself, but the sovereignty of knowing you are abundance. Not the love itself, but the recognition that you are love. Not the health itself, but the remembrance that you are already whole. The external reflections are beautiful, yes, but they are secondary. The true gift is the identity you step into, the frequency you embody, the truth you remember. And when you live from this state, your presence becomes transformative. You do not even need to try. Others feel it. They sense the coherence. They notice the sovereignty. They are drawn to the permission field you radiate, and through you, they too remember. Your life becomes a living demonstration, not through effort, but through being. So here is the invitation as this journey draws to its close. Stop chasing. Stop striving. Stop begging the universe for scraps of possibility. Instead, step back into the truth that every reality exists. Choose the one you desire. Embody it fully. Surrender the details. Live from sovereignty. And allow reality to mirror back the clarity of your being. You are not powerless. You are not waiting. You are not incomplete. You are consciousness itself, the dreamer and the dream, the selector and the selected, the observer and the observed. You are the frequency that shapes matter, the awareness that navigates timelines, the sovereign presence through which the universe remembers itself. Backward manifestation is not simply a method. It is a revelation of who you are. And once you know this, once you live from this, nothing in your life will ever be the same. So breathe deeply now. Feel the truth settle into your body. You are already whole. You are already abundant. You are already loved. The reality you desire is not waiting in some distant tomorrow. It is here. It is now. It is yours the moment you choose to embody it. This is the backward secret that rewrites reality. And this is the invitation of your life, to stop trying to become and to remember that you already are.